Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you for coming and welcome to Positive Properties. Tonight we're going to have another in our series of realities of real estate investing. We're going to make it pretty short and sharp because we only have 40 minutes. We've got a lot to get through. This is a picture of the Ark in Sydney. You may be asking yourselves, what on earth has this got to do with property investing? The answer is, of course, absolutely nothing. But I was once told to make my slides more sexy. So there we have eye candy for everyone. In this webinar, you will learn the secrets of how to stop overwhelm when buying an investment property, how to get started with confidence and clarity, how to set your life up for the next 10 years. And if you stay till the end of this, you'll be receiving a special gift. I'm going to send you a PDF that I've worked out so you can set your life up for the next 10 years. You can plan your life in the way you want and set your goals in your financial section, your personal life, your relationships, your investing, and your leisure. That will help you enormously, and I'm going to send you that PDF at the end of this webinar. This is the 5 simple steps to replacing your income through positive cash flow investment, with heaps of do's and don'ts, and learn from the mistakes that I made. So why are you here? There's a few people on here tonight, and you're all here for different reasons. So it may be that you would like to generate more income. It may be you would like to be able to tell in 10 to 15 minutes if a property is a gold mine or a debt trap. Or would you like to be able to tell if there are bargains about just by the things that real estate agents say? And you might have other reasons. So if you've got some other reasons, just pop them into the chat box now so I can have a look at that. Just write 1 or 2 reasons why you might be here tonight. That would be good. Now, many people are still worried about the current global financial situation. And most people probably on this webinar tonight will be expecting to work until they are 70. Some of us lucky ones manage to retire at 65, but the government changed the rules every day. So a lot of old people, even nowadays, can't afford their heating bills, have to put their food bills on credit card, and then they can't afford to pay off their credit cards once they're on an aged pension. So did you know that 90% of the population end up retiring on only the age pension? Would you like this to be you at the age of 70, still carrying your briefcase to work 9 to 5 every day? Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. For those of you who don't know, my name's Anita Fersland, and I am now a property coach and mentor. I love to help people who don't know how to get started, don't know where to look, and don't know who to trust. But by profession, I'm a radiographer. I spent 40 years as a radiographer working in hospitals all over the world. And I've also had a fair bit of sales experience. In my younger days, BC, I always say, before children and before computers, I was an encyclopedia salesperson. And later on, when the children were little, I did Tupperware for 10 years and became a manager. And that set me in good stead for being able to stand up in front of people and do my seminars and workshops and talk to a room full of people. In 2006, I did my Certificate 4 in real estate at TAFE. That took me a year to do. And just after that time, I spent some time doing the Academy of Wealth and Achievement and did the whole of Chris Howard's Fast Track course, which was a great education in personal development and various things. I did a couple of courses in NLP and a course in presentation and platform skills. And then after that, when I started this business, I did my Certificate 4 in small business management. So that's a bit about me. And, you know, some people say experience is the best. And I sort of feel like I spent a long while one time talking to a coach trying to find out what my unique position was. Why am I different to anybody else? And I worked out that really I'm not. And if I can do it, so can you, with the right education. It took me 6 years to build my portfolio. But I always think of myself like, this is the life of Brian. Here he is giving his sermon, and he's saying, we are all individuals. And the crowd are there underneath him, they're repeating him saying, we're all individuals. And this little guy at the back here puts up his hand, he goes, I'm not. And I feel a bit like that person, that, I'm not really any different to anybody else. And so if I can do it, so can you. These two guys, Jeff and Kane, and they were over from America for a couple of years, and I got coached by them. And it was Jeff who said to me, do what you're passionate about. Be the go-to person in your family and be the go-to person in your area. And I thought to myself, I can do that. So I went home, drew myself a little triangle, and came up with this 5-step system. And now I coach people on how not to make the mistakes that I made when they're first looking at property. So with the right education, you can get yourself a nice income. You have to be very careful of the cliches. There's so many people around now that's telling you things that are pure generalizations, like property doubles every 10 years. That's not necessarily so. And if you think back 10 years from now, in 2007, that was the beginning of the GFC, and a lot of property prices crashed at that time and took a long while to get back. That's why we saw such a surge in the prices only 2 or 3 years ago. And that was a correction that had to happen, I guess. And some people say you can't get capital gains with positive gearing. That's not true either. And I'll show you some examples of that later on. And other people say you can't go wrong with property. Well, I'm here to tell you, yes, you can. If you don't do your sums right, you don't do your due diligence, you can go very wrong with property. And this was my first ever property, and I did everything wrong. I bought on emotion. I believed the hype that property would double every 10 years. I bought it in 2006, so it flatlined for 8 years, and it was heavily negative geared. And I often say, if the interest rates didn't go down the way that they did over that period, I would have been in a lot of trouble. Now, there's one thing about this house. I saw a photo of Steve Jobs recently, and they showed a photo of where he made his first Apple computer in the garage, and his house was almost exactly the same as that. So I thought, well, I did something right. I bought a house just like Steve Jobs. So let's carry on. And there was a horse in that last photo. I don't know if any of you noticed. I'm not going back to it. You can see it next time I do a webinar or a workshop. This little photo reminds me of when my youngest daughter was this age. And I looked in her bedroom, and she was there with all her toys round in a circle, and she was reading from a book. And she was saying to them, upon a time there was. And then she turned the page and she said, upon a time there was. Then she turned another page and she said, upon a time there was. And I thought, oh, that's so cute. And then afterwards I thought, actually, it's really quite sad, because she was stuck. She didn't know how to talk to her dolls and how to tell them the story that she wanted to read them. She just didn't have the language and the vocabulary. And this is like a lot of people in many walks of life, and especially when they go to buy property. They don't have the language, they don't have the knowledge, and they're going around in circles. What happens is sometimes they just need to adjust their mindset. I often get people come to me and they don't have any investments, and they're looking for a place that they can do a subdivision on. They take the wrong advice from their friends. They just sort of think that any property is fine, and they buy sort of a house next door, which might not have been quite the right situation. They don't assess their finances thoroughly, and they don't do their due diligence. talking of the right language. This says, did you know, but it actually should, for my benefit, say, do you know? Do you know what people mean by negative gearing? I was really surprised when I started investing in real estate how many people didn't know the difference between positive and negative gearing. Do you know what it means, ROI? ROI means return on investment. When I was a radiographer, it used to mean region of interest, but in the property world, it means return on investment. And actually, that's very misleading because people will tell you it's a 5% return on investment, and all they're doing is comparing the rent to the purchase price. They're not including any other costs at all, the buying costs or general expenses. And, you know, capital growth is another one that takes a fair bit of explaining. You'd think it was self-explanatory, but it needs a lot of looking into. And there again, depreciation. A lot of people can claim depreciation on a building up to 40 years old and on renovations. It doesn't have to be brand new to claim depreciation. And somebody can let me know in the chat box if that's spelt right. I think I'll have to put that in the spell check later and change the slide. All right, so positive gearing is a never-ending source of income. As most people stop at buying 2 investment properties, usually because they're negative geared, and they can't afford to get any more because they're always paying out of their salary to pay the mortgage. Now, if you've got positive geared and the rent is paying the mortgage for you, you can get almost an infinite number. Now, this little girl, she's got a watering can and she's looking really happy because nobody's told her she actually hasn't got enough water in that can to water all of that grass. And it's a bit like anybody on a salary. If you've got negative geared properties, you get your salary and then you pay off all your bills. And then there's too much month left at the end of your salary or too much week left. It depends on whether you get paid weekly or fortnightly. You never seem to have enough money to the end of that period. This is a bit like the water truck coming down the road, and they fill your can up with water and you just water a few flowers and then there's nothing left till the water truck comes again. But if you had a never-ending source of income, you would have clouds and rain every day and rivers and streams coming into a reservoir. So you then have a reservoir of properties that would be giving you income and money to spend on your bills and your leisure time. Now, what I'd like you to do, in my workshop we do 5 one-day goals. I want you to put in the chat box a goal that you are looking forward to. One day you're going to do this, one day you're going to do that. And I've got this picture of this wedding because weddings are planned from the end date. Everybody sets a date for a wedding and then everything falls into place after that. Because until you've got a date, you can't really book your marquee, you can't book your cars, you can't invite your guests until you actually have a date. And people always do this with weddings, and to a certain extent they do it with holidays. But pretty much everywhere else in life, nobody bothers to plan. This is one of the problems why people don't achieve as much as they could in life, because they don't have a set goal and they don't have a set pathway to reach that goal. Because once you set that goal, you look back and you see all of the things that have to fall in place to make that goal happen. This is my goal. I have a block of land in the Southern Alps and I want to put an eco-friendly, wheelchair-friendly house there. And I have already got the DA approved and the building construction approved. And it's absolutely beautiful spot with beautiful views. And I'm looking for other people to join me in this venture so that we could go up there on holidays, not necessarily together, basically for 2 weeks a season if 6 people joined in. So what are you looking for? What's your outcome that you got from this webinar and in the future? Are you looking for a passive income, positive cash flow, income replacements, a way to save on tax? There's plenty of ways to save on tax. You don't need to negative gear. Secure your retirement or other reasons. If you've got other reasons, then pop them in the chat box so I can have a look at them. Put something in the chat box if you've got a goal or a reason that you're looking for. So as I was saying before, there's a lot of people that don't know the difference between positive and negative gearing. And it's pretty much as Charles Dickens said in his book, David Copperfield. Income, £20, expenditure, 19 and 6, happiness. Income, £20, expenditure, £20 and 6pence, disaster. And that's the same thing with positive and negative gearing. A positive geared, you'll get income, happiness. A negative geared, the expenditure is more than your income, disaster, basically. So the mindset 20 years ago was to get negative geared properties. And not many people bought properties as investment in those days because mortgages were 16% and you could get 14% on your savings. So why would you commit yourself to a mortgage of 16% when you could put your money in the bank and get 14%? And you pretty much, you could get capital growth then rather than cash flow. So nowadays, your mortgages are 5% and your savings are only 2%. So it makes sense to buy property rather than put your money in a bank account where you're only getting 2%, because you do get capital growth as well as you get the rents covering your mortgage. So your tenants are buying your property for you. Now we're on to our 5 simple steps. We're running a bit short of time, so I won't be able to go through all of them, but we can leave the others for another day. We can do another webinar or a workshop. First thing you have to do is have a regular job. You might think that's a given, but not necessarily so. A lot of mortgage brokers say people come to us and they don't even have a job, let alone any savings. Because they hear the seminars that say you can buy property, no money down. But you've got to spend somebody's money, and if somebody is going to lend you that money, you've got to make sure that you can pay it back. Assess the areas, crunch your numbers, work out your property manager, and don't buy on emotion. So number 1, like I said, you have to have a job for at least 3 months, and or if you're in your own business, 2 years of an income that's working for you. You have to, before you even look at property, establish how much the banks will give you. And don't place too much hope on an unconditional loan that you've got over the phone with a 2-minute salesperson, for 2 minutes with a salesperson. Don't cross-collateralize. That means don't put all your properties into one bank, because if you get in trouble paying one loan, they'll take your other properties from you. And make your loan portable so that you can transfer it from one property to another if necessary. Assess the areas. There are a lot of houses on the market. If there are a lot of houses on the market, ask yourself why. If there's good reasons why there's a lot of houses on the market, that means that the prices will be low if there's plenty of supply. But if you go to mining towns nowadays, there's plenty of supply. That doesn't mean that you have to buy there, because that would be a disaster. And those people that bought when the houses were in short supply paid top dollar for them, and now that's disaster because they're not worth anything. So look at the area. Are there a lot of commission houses about? Are they exclusive houses? Do you want to buy the worst house in the best street or the best house in the worst street? Make sure you drive around the area and meet the locals. A friend of mine once said, if you wave to them and say hi, and they smile back at you with a full set of teeth, it's okay to buy there. That's not due diligence, but that was quite funny. Have the prices recently gone up or gone down? So have a look at the suburbs and see which way that they're going, and that's why you often need to have some good advice from people with the software and the experience to tell you where in the buying cycle a particular suburb is. It doesn't necessarily go from city to city, it most often goes from suburb to suburb. So look at the demographics. Is it close to schools, shops, public transport, etc.? Really got time to go into that tonight, but we can talk about that at an upcoming workshop, and if you're keen, I'll let you know when that's going to be. Shop around for your property managers. I can assure you, your property manager does not go to bed worrying about your property. So you have to make sure they're good so that they're on their toes all the time. But I can tell you, your property coach does. The morning I woke up and I was thinking about a client and her portfolio, and I was thinking we could do this, we could do that, and I was getting really excited. And then I thought to myself, Nita, it's not even your property, it's not your portfolio. And I thought, oh, I'm getting really excited about this. So your property coach goes to bed thinking about your properties, I can assure you of that. And then lastly, don't buy on emotion. Don't assume your family are going to agree with what you buy. And also don't buy something you wouldn't live in. Yes, you can buy stuff with potential that needs renovating, and you can renovate it before you put somebody in there. But if you think it's in an area or a place where you wouldn't want to live, or it's scruffy and you wouldn't like those conditions, don't buy it. Don't expect other people to live in it, because you will get bad tenants if they're not happy with the situation. And always look for potential. I like to look for things on big blocks where you can subdivide, maybe places that are already rented that you don't have to really gut before you can put somebody in, but places that might need a new kitchen or a coat of paint, and you can put a bit of value on them. And always have an exit strategy. Buy something that you can resell easily. So those are my 5 tips, and we can talk about those later on in the discovery session in more detail to what you want in the future if you'd like to. Oh, here's a bonus tip. You increase your rent $5 to $15 every 6 to 9 months. August 2004, $300 a week. April 2015, $310. October 2015, $320. And June 2016, $330. Now, if you didn't increase your rent from August to June 2016, and then suddenly told your tenant you were going to put it up $30 a week, and you might realize that you've missed this increase all the way through, so you might want to put it up $35 a week, you're going to lose your tenant. They'll just balk at it. They won't appreciate the fact that they've been paying cheap rent for all of this period. They'll just look at this figure and say, nah, and move out. Then you'll have your place vacant until you can refill it. And you might have to re-rent it at $300 a week. So just make sure you just regularly put your rent up to a rate that your tenant can afford. Okay, so go back to your one-day goals. Pick out what you said. Prioritize your one-day goal. What if you could break through the financial barriers? And the way to do this is to take action. And also share your dreams. Tell people about your dreams and your goals, and it's much more likely to happen. And put a date on it. Since I put a date on my goal for my property to build that house of 5 years, it's made much more sense to me. I'm taking much more action to get it done, and that's what it's going to look like in 5 years from now. Absolutely beautiful property with fantastic views all around. So my mission is that everybody should have a comfortable and secure retirement. Everybody should be able to afford their heating bills, and everybody should be able to put food on their table. And here's a few examples of people that I've helped. Here's some clients I helped buy a townhouse in Bradbury. They bought it in 2011 for $226 and rented it out at $340 a week, which was very good. It was easily break even a little bit. If they kept it a bit longer, it probably would have been more likely positive geared when the rent went up. But they decided they'd take the money and run when the prices went up real quick. And so they got $80,000 profit in 18 months, which wasn't too bad. This is one of my own, actually. This is a little unit in Amber Vale, the top one up here. I bought for 125Ks in 2007. That has tripled in value in the last 10 years. So sometimes properties will flatline, and sometimes they'll double or triple in 10 years. Depends on the situation and depends on the area that you buy in. So the secret is in the purchase, usually not in the sale. And this one was flipped for a profit of 50,000 Ks. Bought at auction and then sold, or bought off normal retail and then sold at auction. Didn't do anything to it except paint the bathroom, I think, and then flipped it a few months later for 50,000 Ks. These are a few people that I do business with, I work with, and have referral partners, basically. Watkins Tapsell Solicitors, Choice Home Loans, Advanti Financial Services, and Mavin Digital, who does a lot of my web work. So now it gets down to, how can I help you? If I've got your permission, I can tell you a little bit about what I do and how we can work together further. When it comes to buying investment properties, do you feel a fear and trepidation? Do you think, I don't know how to invest? Do you ask yourself, what sort of property should I buy? And then start to panic. I don't know anything about buying cycles or demographics. So if you answered yes to those three questions and feel you need someone to guide you through the process between financial planner and real estate agent to a lifestyle retirement, book in now at Positive Properties for a discovery session on how you can fulfill your financial planner's dreams for you. I always feel like I'm the link between the financial planner and the real estate agent. So if you would like to work with me further, we can book in a discovery session which goes for about an hour, hour and a half, and that will help you formulate your plans for the next 10 years. And as I say, anybody who stays to the end of this webinar is going to get my PDF for how to set yourself up for planning over the next 10 years. And if you book in for your discovery session, you'll get that plan anyway. We'll actually go through it with you. We can help you plan your next 10 years, give you clarity on which direction to go. We help you source properties and help with the due diligence and crunching the numbers. This is what some people have said about my coaching. When I was asked, this a client of mine in Queensland, what was your overall impression of the coaching? She replied, having not had personalized coaching before, it was a mix of counseling and strategy. And when I asked, what did you like best? She said that we have traveled the same road, encountered the same spruikers with the pluses and pitfalls accordingly. He gave me clarity on the journey that we'd like to have. So we've left her sort of just pruning her portfolio and producing beautiful flowers, as she says. And then there was Andrew from New South Wales. Many thanks for your assistance and guidance. It's been great to bounce concepts and ideas off you, and I very much appreciate your ideas and critiques. So if you want to have a discovery session with me, a one-on-one where we sit down and plan out where you are now to where you want to be in 10 years' time, normally $247, and you save $150 if you book today, and it's only $97. You need to go to positiveproperties.biz/events, click on the PayPal button, and that will get you the session for $97. That, if you decide to go on my coaching, will give you that $247 off the first month of my coaching as a deposit. So you're saving a great deal of money by booking that in today. So there's the discovery session. That's the link for you. I'm sorry the slides were wrong just now. So here's the thing. Go straight to the website and book in today. I'm looking forward to seeing you and working with you further. And I'll be sending you that 10-year plan where you can get your life set up and your career and your investments and your personal life all sorted out. So if you feel like you're swimming upstream, take a boat, come and work with us at Positive Properties, and thank you very much for listening. And just in case you think I'm not the sort of person that gets things done, I'd like to let you know that this photo took me 2 hours to get. Good night, everybody.